25 minutes before 1 o'clock. It's not always easy running a municipality. Your only source of revenue that you control anyway is property tax. Up until 2009, you had to wait for the provincial budget to find out how much money you'd be getting from the province. Well, now municipalities have split 1% of the provincial sales tax, about $250 million a year. This summer, SUMA, the Saskatchewan Urban Municipalities Association, is running TV ads thanking the government for the money. Here's one of the ads.
Saskatchewan is growing, and our quality of life is the envy of many. Continued growth requires strong leadership from our cities and smaller communities, all represented by SUMA. Our cities and SUMA thank the provincial government for sharing the provincial sales tax. This sustainable and predictable funding enhances vital municipal services, including fire, police, and parks and recreation. Your city, SUMA, and the provincial government, partners in building our Saskatchewan.
Now, while SUMA is saying thanks, it's not all roses. The mayors of the bigger cities say the provincial money should be split based on population. Of course, that idea doesn't fly very high with smaller communities, towns, and villages. Now some mayors are floating the idea of a municipal sales tax. So what do you think? Should provincial grants to municipalities be based on population, a per capita formula? Would you be okay with a 1% sales tax hike to pay for roads, sewers, and bridges? Give us a call anytime now. It's 1-800-716-2221. You can email bluesky@cbc.ca or reach us on Twitter. We're at Blue Sky CBC. So again, would you be willing to pay, say, a 1% sales tax hike if it went to your city or town to help pay for roads, sewers, and bridges? And you think the provincial money should be split up on a per capita basis? Give me a call right now, 1-800-716-2221. Email bluesky@cbc.ca. You can reach us on Twitter as well. We're at Blue Sky CBC. Now, we're joined on the line by Jim Scarrow. He is Mayor of Prince Albert and SUMA's lead man on infrastructure issues. Thanks for taking our call and your time today, Mr. Scarrow.
Thanks for providing it, and great to be with you today.
Why is SUMA running this ad or these ads at this point?
I think it's the right thing to do. We receive significant funding through the revenue sharing program by the province. In an era where there are many demands on revenues of all types, we need to assure the government and the people of Saskatchewan that the money is coming to municipalities, and those include SUMA, which represents cities, towns, and villages, and all told about 81% of the population resides in cities, towns, and villages. Then SARM, which is the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities. The other member is New North, and the funding program is divided between cities and then towns and villages, then SARM, and then New North.
It does
so
seem
it's important for all of us.
Yeah, it does seem, though, like a somewhat odd way to spend money when so many municipalities are claiming poverty. I mean, is this really just politics?
No, not at all. I think there is a real demand for funds, and I think there are two pieces. One is operating. Operating literally goes to the services that municipalities provide. I can speak for cities. That includes roads, streets.
No, I think you misunderstood the question, Mr. Scarrow. It seems that spending that kind of money on advertisements, thanking the government for doing what many would argue they should have done all along, seems like an odd way to spend money. A lot of butter when you say you can't afford the bread.
I don't think we're saying that at all. I'm saying that we need to let the people of Saskatchewan know that this funding is important, and this is the way to do it. It's not just on advertising. It's in terms of using social media and programs such as yourself to get the word out, that we would never have been able to meet the demands of the past 5 years in terms of growth. 73% of all immigrants coming to Saskatchewan came to our cities. That these, in the equivalent of the number of immigrants, would be equal to a large city, somewhere around 30,000. And so the cities have to provide the kinds of services that will, accommodate the basic needs of its citizens, but also the things that today's citizens demand, and those are more cultural and sports, community centers that provide a quality of life that will attract people to this province. So it's really matching the growth agenda of the province. Yes. These are the services that we need. And there's only one taxpayer, Garth. In every city in Saskatchewan, there's the taxation only goes to property owners, that be commercial or non-commercial. There's nobody else paying tax. We operate utilities, for example, water and sewer are operated as utilities, but we have very few
Scarrow,
opportunities.
we'll get to that in a moment, if I may. We can get to all that in a moment. I'm still talking about the advertisement and the advertising campaign, and I guess I'm curious why the ad isn't saying all the things you've just said in the last 30 seconds, rather than this sort of soft thank you to the province.
Well, I don't think that a thank you need to be soft or hard. I think it's important that people realize that this funding is coming to the municipals that participate in the agreement. This is very unique in all of Canada, and it's important that we acknowledge the role of the province in underwriting the costs of operating our cities, towns, villages, RMs, and northern communities. I mean, this is, as I say, only occurs in Canada. It's fairly recent, and again, people need to understand that the reason we're able to keep our taxes as low as we have is because of this source of revenue that is, at just equaling now the same dollar value of the early 1990s when things started to the funding flow stopped, and there was a lot of offloading in terms of programs. But that's behind us. We're a new province, a different province, and a province that is really growing. And has a growth agenda. And so the cities, towns, villages need to be a part of that.
I want to bring David into the conversation. He's on the line in Regina. Hi, David.
Hi. I just look at the many levels of government we have in this province, and it just fascinates me. We got a provincial government that drops the sales tax and income tax so they can get the economy going. And on the other hand, RMs in the cities want to raise taxes so they can get more revenue. And you just almost it's almost like you want to stranglehold the economy. And we're a province that lives on resources, oil and potash right now, and both of them are borderline doing good and bad every day when you listen to the radio. Here's my solution. I cut all this government levels in half and make it into regions like we do with the healthcare system. I think we got 8 or 10 healthcare regions. That's all we need is 8 or 10 real municipalities in this province. For the size of the province, if the healthcare region can run 8 regions, we should have 8 regions to look after and cut all the government expenses. And then as far as taxing everybody more, how much more can you keep on asking for? When my priority, what I want safe water, I want sewage, I want policing, and I need some education for the next generation. Sure, fine and dandy. But when you look where I live in Regina, I'm almost paying $5,000 a year, property tax and all that stuff, and then the other taxes and that. And what? For garbage pickup and my sewer and water. My road gets cleaned twice a year, maybe 3 times if I'm lucky. So what I'm paying for and what I'm getting in return is pretty well what other people are seeing in Regina and bigger centers. There's, disposable income is disappearing faster than what we can make it. There's many people with one full-time job plus a part-time on the side because they're trying to put food on the table, and then there's people that can't even afford to buy a house, so they got to pay high rent.
Okay, David.
And all the cost keeps going up.
Okay, David,
you keep asking for more. So
you gave us a lot to chew on.
Municipalities.
Thanks, David. You gave us a lot to chew on.
You bet.
Okay.
Garth, I want to correct one thing. We're not asking for an additional 1% of PST. We're not asking for that. We're asking for new revenue opportunities similar to that exists in other jurisdictions, namely Toronto and in the United States. But again, the services the gentleman was acknowledging, fire, police, parks, roads, those are the operating costs of our cities, and that's where these funds are earmarked. Infrastructure is a different piece.
Yeah, I wonder, though, like David probably quite nicely underlined the conundrum, though, didn't he? Because as you mentioned a few moments ago, there's only the one taxpayer.
That's right.
And, David, I think quite nicely pointed out that there's a certain fatigue among a lot of taxpayers.
we receive about 8 cents of the tax dollar. And again, the taxes are paid only by property owners, and then people use water for part of the utility, and sewer is a part of the utility of sanitation. And so those are the revenue streams that we have at our disposal right now, although some cities have a destination marketing fund on its hotel and accommodation industry.
The entertainment
but again,
tax.
The costs of policing, for example, have gone up dramatically, particularly in our cities. Costs of fire have gone up. And, of course, inflation runs around 2 or 3% a year. And so the salary portion is one that continually grows, and the demand for services doesn't diminish. People still want their streets, snow removal in winter and maintenance in the summer. But again, the essence of our message here is that what is keeping our taxes lower than they might otherwise be is this municipal revenue sharing program.
Right. Listeners, do you think provincial grants to municipalities should be based on population and per capita formula? Or would you be okay with a 1% municipal tax to pay for roads, sewers, and bridges? Give us a call right now. We're at 1-800-716-2221. You can email bluesky@cbc.ca or reach us on Twitter as well. We're at Blue Sky CBC. Our guest for the next 14 minutes or so is Jim Scarrow. He's Mayor of Prince Albert and SUMA's point man for infrastructure issues. Mr. Scarrow, ever since 2009 when the revenue sharing agreement was announced, there's been a lot of discussion at SUMA about how that money is divided up. How is it divided now?
Well, it's divided up on a percentage basis. I don't have the sheet right in front of me, but 7% goes to New North. I believe it's 29% for the RMs. Hang on just a sec. I have it right here. The cities, 46%. Towns, villages, and resort villages, 18%. Rural municipalities, 29%. And northern communities, 7%. So that's how it's divided now.
Now, the debate is whether it should remain along those lines or be on a strict per capita basis. Of course, the mayors of the bigger cities would like to see per capita, and folks from the smaller towns don't. I guess I'm curious why it isn't on a per capita basis.
Well, I think when the agreement was struck, and right now this is a formula that's under review and needs to be brought to an agreement by the participants and presented to the government in terms of what a revised formula might look at. What we're looking at is a situation where nobody goes backwards, and that we enjoy a strong relationship, respectful relationship with all members. Our cities and towns and villages, of course, are under the SUMA umbrella. Rural municipalities under one and northern under the other. But the fact of the matter is that we're seeing growth, but we want to have a formula that has nobody going backwards, and perhaps I would take a look at the increases that may be coming our way. Certainly, in the year ahead, we know that the sales tax revenue is again going up. And so it may be based on some type of increases built into the formula. But again, we want and we do enjoy a respectful relationship with the partners. And this fall we will be, coming to, some agreement that will work for everybody.
Let's hear from Wayne. He's on the road near Prince Albert. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, how you doing today?
Pretty well, thanks.
I got 3 points to make. First point, this government did wrong for cutting funding. 2% off the PST, should never have done that. Second thing, cut the provincial education tax in rural Saskatchewan, should never have done it. Give $6 billion to the farmers. Are we ever going to recover that? That's all I've got to say. We'll see what people have to say. Thank you.
Okay, Joe. Thanks, Wayne. And quickly,
I missed the last point.
The last point was the last grant to farmers.
Oh, okay.
That Wayne kind of thought we'd never see the money back.
Okay.
I do want to just throw this in. Dave reached us via email. He writes, at what point are the people who have allowed our infrastructure to deteriorate held responsible? Instead, our governments continue to treat taxpayers like ATMs, and it's unacceptable. And that comes to us from Dave in Saskatoon. Well, let's talk about that for just a moment, Mr. Scarrow, if we may. Sort of why are we in such an infrastructure deficit in this province?
Well, I think it came about of necessity that we went through a very difficult period when the era that we closed, numerous hospitals and institutions where we were really in debt and we needed to resolve the debt issue. And so the government of the day took, drastic steps to, cut the debt and to pay down the debt. That was a different era, but its impact is still with us because those grants that were made to the cities were reduced dramatically during that period. It is only now that we're getting up to the same level of real dollars that we received since 2009. And so as a result, in order to continue providing services that the public demand, not enough attention and far few dollars were paid into, maintaining infrastructure. Now, that's one piece. The other piece is simply a matter of age, that all of the underground services we have a limited lifespan, and there's what they call a bathtub chart that shows where at the installation there's a fairly significant cost of installation, and then there's a really long flat period, and then the costs start to go up quite dramatically as these pipes and services underground, reach their lifespan. And we in Prince Albert, the oldest city in the province, some of our underground infrastructure is 100 and some odd years, and Regina is the same position, and Saskatoon as well. That's where we're having these numerous breaks that cause disruption, throughout the year, but particularly in the spring where we're seeing, a large number of failures, large sinkholes as a result of this great amount of infrastructure that is underground. The cities, incidentally, are responsible for 50% under their jurisdiction of all the infrastructure in the province, so this is a significant piece. We do need, and we will acknowledge, the amount of money that flowed to cities, towns, villages, and RMs, during the stimulus era of not that many years ago, when we were inventing a new word called shovel-ready, and the municipals really came to the table with a large number of projects that benefited, primarily municipalities and the people through these projects. Not the least of which in Prince Albert was a new water treatment plant. In Saskatoon, it was new art gallery and housing and quite a number of right across the province. So that was very important. We're now at the table on an infrastructure program, realizing that municipalities are constantly working on infrastructure, repair, maintenance, and operating. But the federal government, their program, Building Canada Fund, ends in 2014, and they have said that the minister has stated that he will have a program in place in 2014. We're working with the provincial government in terms of a three-level participation in an infrastructure program. We're hopeful for some interim dollars in 2013 to assist municipalities with their infrastructure. We have a huge deficit, billions of dollars. The best practices suggest that the total investment of something in the vicinity of $400 million a year is likely needed to sustain growth. But that would be, over the three levels of government, local, provincial, and federal. So it's one that everyone acknowledges. 3 years ago, nobody could spell it or say it. And now most of the population certainly are aware of infrastructure with bridge failures, those types of things that we're seeing happening in our cities and rural areas that, need to be addressed in order to maintain, safe communities and communities that can meet the challenges of the economy.
Before we run out of time, Mr. Scarrow, I do want to ask you about this idea of a municipal sales tax, for lack of a better term. It has been floated. Do you think the idea has any chance politically?
Well, I think we should take a look at as many ideas as are available. Another suggestion has been to add a penny or two to gasoline tax that municipalities could use to maintain roads and streets. And so I think there's many ways to address it. I think we need, as an association or with our member associations, to look at what's happening generally in North America. What are the things that work well, where the dollars are put to the uses that they're intended, and that we see vast improvement in our infrastructure, likely targeted. But again, municipalities are at best at deciding what's best, in their area or their city or town or village. So that's a piece that needs to come together. But right now, we're concentrating on revenue sharing with the province, and then infrastructure with the province and federal government, and then new opportunities for revenue to address the needs and wants of the communities that we live. And remember that we're in a province that is an island in the whole, likely the whole world in terms of where we're at in terms of our economy. We are growing, and those growing pains do create costs. And basically, we're seeing most of those costs being addressed in our cities and towns, and the assistance we're receiving through revenue sharing has made the difference in terms of our ability to meet the growth of the province of Saskatchewan.
Just a couple of listener comments I'll pass on. I got one more question for you. Dave in Saskatoon writes, at what point are the people who have... Oh, pardon me, I already read that one. We did get an email from somebody who said, look, by the time all's said and done, I'll pay $5 for a bottle of water, so I got no problem with an extra penny on the dollar to help with infrastructure. So there you go. And Alan writes, since a sales tax levied against a few hundred people who probably do most of their shopping in the big centres anyway wouldn't do much of anything, it seems clear to me that the push for such a thing must be coming from the bigger centres. And now Regina Council can find money for a new stadium that will contribute nothing to an increased quality of life. And of course, that money will either come at the expense of infrastructure, which is already receiving less than it should, or it'll come from a new source like a new tax. That came to us from Alan. And we just got a couple minutes left, and I do want to ask you, Mr. Scarrow, sometimes, do you fear that the infrastructure deficit right now in Saskatchewan towns and cities is so deep that it's going to take something pretty radical like a municipal sales tax or a 1% across the board increase in the PST or a new gas tax just to catch up, let alone get ahead?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we collectively now acknowledge all levels of government that this is an urgent need in every area of Canada. And whether that be wastewater treatment, landfills, underground services, roads, it's a common challenge for all of us to meet. And when I think when we reach 2014, we will be well on our way to resolving what will be a long-term commitment to infrastructure replacement, and then new infrastructure that's required for specifically Saskatchewan with our growth. But Canada increasingly is a country to which people want to live and raise their families, and so it's a countrywide challenge that will be met. I have great confidence in the ability of governments to deliver services when we're all on the same page.
Did you want to announce whether you're going to run or not?
Well, I'll tell you what, there will be announced in due time. I'm enjoying my role as mayor and as working with my counterparts in SARM and the New North and with towns and villages and cities. It's as you know, I'm a broadcaster. In fact, I think I hired you way back when, and you've done very well.
Well, Mr. Scarrow, we got to run, and we'll wait for the announcement. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Sir. Jim Scarrow, Mayor of Prince Albert, SUMA's spokesperson on infrastructure issues. If you have more thoughts on how to pay for municipal infrastructure or the idea of a municipal sales tax, give us a call, 1-800-661-7540. Email bluesky@cbc.ca or reach us on Twitter @blueskycbc. Tomorrow, if the NHL locks out the players or the players go on strike, will you make it through the winter? We'll talk about that tomorrow here on Blue Sky. Bye.